You know, before we start this report from Watkins Glen, this man is wearing shorts and a short sleeve shirt. It's 51 degrees. The wind's blowing. It feels like 40 degrees. He's either more of a man than I ever imagined or he's
No.
crazy.
I have nature's insulation on me.
Well, you said that yesterday.
Hibernation's
This don't
coming.
work. How about our
Hibernation's
weather
coming.
forecast prediction, by the way?
We were dead on, 100% chance of rain during the Indy lights race. So
And they put on a hell of a show in the wet. It was a hell of a show.
look, it was a wet start. It was an official wet start where
Why did they do that, Marshall, when all the drivers said it was dry?
Because there's a bit of a history in IndyCar. Whenever the drivers all say one thing, you pretty much guarantee the opposite's going to happen. So don't blame race control. Blame the drivers who know if they were to say the opposite, please let us start on wets. IndyCar would let them all start on slicks.
Good
So
point.
It's their fault.
And of course, then they all pit on the first lap, which is insane. But,
All right, who won? Tell us about the day.
you and I have been riding insane for the last 3 months. Alexander Rossi was overdue to win a race, especially on a road course or street circuit, but he's been
Very
running
true.
just as good on the ovals. And he put on a performance today for the ages because not only did he win from the pole, he held off Scott Dixon the last 12, 15 laps, just the two of them as they pulled away. And you beat Scott Dixon at Watkins Glen, you got something to be proud of.
That doesn't happen. It did, but I mean, that doesn't happen. You see Scott Dixon in your mirrors. Every other driver that saw Scott Dixon in their mirrors waved to him as he went by and knew that they had no chance of getting back in front of him. Rossi was the only one who not only was able to keep Scott behind him, but managed about a 1 second gap in that run to the checkered flag. That was really impressive. Dixon set, so the two of them traded fastest laps the whole time. Scorching pace set, and again, man, there aren't that many times in life on a road course like this, crazy commitment, where Scott Dixon chases someone, comes up short. So beyond congratulating Alexander Rossi for his first win, the manner in how he got that win,
Yep.
that's what we should be remembering.
Absolutely. And Jeremy Millis gets a tip of the hat because that guy and Joseph Newgarden were magic, and now he's moved over to Rossi, and look, if they keep these guys together for a while, they're going to win a lot of races.
And our friend Rob Edwards there too. I mean, there's that 98 car is I think we could be talking about how that is the lead Andretti Autosport car here pretty quickly. The 28 car with Ryan Hunter-Reay has been the standard bearer for quite some time. I'm not saying that they are losing anything, but I see a lot of strength on the 98. I think Andretti as a whole is going to need to look at what they're doing with that yellow and blue car and realize that, wow, these guys are really pushing us in the direction we need to go. Better get on board.
And good for Brian Herta because he started the whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole Napa signing on, staying with them, it's another big thing. I know we spoke about that a day or two ago, but not only is Andretti keeping Rossi, I think one of probably the biggest news to come out of that is Napa, which had been a little on board, a little off board. We'll be in for a race or two. They're coming back. Impressive stuff.
Yeah, because in this day and age, just to get a sponsor for Indy is a big enough deal, but to get them to stick around for the whole season is a big time deal. And I think Brian and David Bowers and I think those guys have all done a good job of putting this thing together.
We had Ryan Hunter-Reay, thank goodness for him, still achy and sore from his crash at Pocono. Nice run for him. Honda to lock out that top three podium. If you listen to our podcast earlier in the week, an idiot who looks and sounds a lot like me said Chevy weekend for sure. Honda doesn't stand a chance. I'm going to stop making predictions by now.
You should be a weatherman.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. The stupidity continues over here, but good for him. Penske, though. Penske, to me, if we're talking about the other news of the day, good for Elio Castroneves. He was the shining example for them, but after Elio, man, that thing fell off the rails pretty quickly.
If you would have, the thing that's interesting, Elliott finished fourth. He's only 22 points out of the lead. Scott Dixon's only 3 points out of the lead. And, you know, I mean, anything can happen in double points. I mean, Elio's 22, Pagenaud's 34, Will Power 68. It's probably not going to happen for him. But you've got three Penske's against one Ganassi, and everybody's kind of like, Penske's the underdog. You know?
Well, tell me about Newgarden, though. That kid hasn't made a lot of mistakes this year. If anything, we've been impressed by how his first season with Roger has just been clean, almost perfect. One race left to go, penultimate round, unforced error, chuck it in the wall. 31-point lead coming into Watkins Glen, down to 3, and a 4-time champ in Dixon on your heels. That's not the kind of pressure you want, brother.
No, it's not. And the thing that's interesting is we don't know because we've never driven an IndyCar, but an IndyCar on cold tires, I mean, when a guy that good loses it, and he wasn't the only one. A couple guys, I think, had some trouble
Tony
leading the
Kanaan.
pits.
Tony did it the exact same thing, directly behind him with the left rear instead of the left front.
Right. So it's pretty tricky conditions. I mean, it's cold, overcast. It never rained a drop during the race, as Marshall said. But it was a hell of a good race. There was a lot of passing, and Mr. Technical can tell you why, because of the way guys went with downforce, right?
Yeah, so it was downforce, but also just direction on whether you to go partial rain, which means a little bit softer setup, or more towards a dry setup, a little bit stiffer, which is going to be faster here. Simon Pagenaud, for example, who we were, not too long ago saying, wow, real bear raging to go for his second championship here, was nowhere today and said his team opted for a full wet setup, which would mean disconnecting the anti-sway bars and thing just rolling around, and instead of really digging in, gripping, and charging through the corners. Strange why someone who's in championship contention, why that car would go in that direction, to me at least. Meanwhile, others like Rossi, like Dixon, like Hunter Ray were all on a more traditional setup, or at least further in that direction, and they were blindingly fast. So, then you also have the fact that some of the Penske drivers said they went for a higher downforce level 2, which, when we have a dry race and the other cars have kind of dry setups, you're just carrying a parachute down the straight.
Huh?
So,
well, you just saw Pagenaud.
Strange.
He was on push to pass once and couldn't pass.
He broke the button. He was pressing it so many times. So.
Graham Rahal, who finished 5th and did a good job, 10th to 5th, and he's still technically in the championship hunt too, said they went right. They split it right down the middle. They didn't want to go too much downforce or too little, and he said maybe we didn't need quite as much as we did, but he said we were pretty happy with where we were. It's just interesting because there was a lot of passing. That what Marshall just explained had a lot to do with it, but this is such a great racetrack for Indy cars, and it was to watch Rossi hold off Dixon at the end. It doesn't have to be a photo finish. That was a hell of a finish and a hell of a race.
If there was a yo-yo award, I think the other half of the Chip Ganassi team would get it, and Charlie Kimball, who was
brilliant. He was brilliant for a while.
Yeah, brilliant towards the end, a mess early on, even halfway through. Max Chilton had some issues. Those guys went for some alternate strategies, stayed out when others pitted, did some smart stuff to get back up into contention. They finished, I believe, 7th and 8th, but we would not have expected them to be in those positions. At the halfway point, you would have said, no way at all. But really good to see them salvage something. And, we had Jack Harvey, who had to pit and have the rear wing and the whole rear structure replaced. He held on for 14th.
Did a nice job, though, when he was out in front of the pits on the off strategy. It took a long time for the leaders to get by him.
A relatively clean weekend for his first as a road course rookie, so good for him. He'll be back for one more at Sonoma.
Good weekend for the Foyt boys.
The Foyt boys, that was awesome, too. Munoz and Daly running strong. Munoz, a little bit of an advantage, right? Last round, Connor kind of stood up and said, hi, I'm the shiny happy one here. And good to see Carlos rebound, so...
They finished 10th and 11th.
Hinch, I think Hinch won the I have no teeth left on my anything in my gearbox award, and I don't know if that Honda engine, well, let's just say that whatever the intended rev limit was, it sounded a little like an F1 car there when the electronics goofed up and misshifted.
4th to 1st is an ugly sound. I mean,
yes.
It was awful. But now we go to Sonoma, brother. I hate double points. They don't even need double points. Think how close this championship is. We got 5 guys within 68 points with 1 race to go. And if you didn't have, I know they think we got to have a storyline. That's one of the big things for IndyCar. We got to have you always have a storyline, and this is a better storyline than they could have ever bought with double points.
We have Team Penske that's rolling from here straight there to test this week, just in a couple days at Sonoma, and then next week, the Thursday of the event, the season finale. Thursday is actually a series-wide test day, so by the time we start to get into official practice and qualifying, we've been having a heat wave out in the Bay Area, so I don't think we're going to have any wacky weather like we have here. But if there's another thing I dislike, and they've done this the last couple of years, I believe, all the teams come into the final race at Sonoma with a ton of mileage, a ton of testing. The chances for any real variances, maybe folks being off a little bit. I mean, by the time folks actually climb in for first practice Friday morning, they're sore and worn out because they've done so many miles. So kind of casts things a little bit where, we get to qualifying and you almost kind of know how things are going to end up based on how testing went.
Right, and especially at Sonoma, qualifying dictates the finish so many of the years we've been there. It's just too narrow. Don't get me wrong, Diana, those people do a great job at Sonoma promoting the IndyCar race. And I wish they promoted some other IndyCar races around here. But it's just a tough track to pass on and for that to be your final race.
So as we leave here, we still have some silly season stuff to sort out, a lot, actually. We have Alexander Rossi's first win, awesome for him, on a road course. We have Joseph Newgarden stepping on firing shots into his feet, but hopefully he'll recover some pressure there. Dixon was in the press conference afterwards, was like, it's all good. Looking forward to it. That guy doesn't feel pressure, so this is going to be a fun week and a half, 2 weeks till we get to Sonoma, because the level of pressure varies based upon who made mistakes here and who didn't.
It's like when Paul Fanner calls us, we're under a lot of pressure.
Yes,
People
exactly.
don't realize it. He browbeats us a lot at midnight. What are we going to have tomorrow? Is there going to be anything on Racer worth reading and watching? Of course. We appreciate you people watching Racer.com.
And so we can say that we were technically correct. It just didn't happen during the race. Starting to sprinkle right now.
Yeah.
100% chance of us being wrong.
It's usually wrong. All right. Thanks for watching. Marshall Pruett. Read his stuff. Look at his videos.
He's going to catch a flight home.
I'm catching a flight home.
If he doesn't die, we'll see him at Sonoma.